Hello and welcome to the Unusual Stories podcast. My name is Wojciech Salski and I'll be your host for today, as per usual. And I guess before we start, just as a friendly reminder, if you would like to hear more of these podcasts in the future, if you would like to support me in any way, please do share it with a friend, maybe suggest it to a colleague or your family member. Also, make sure to follow on the app. That helps a lot and that allows you to see the episodes as they come out as well, which I find very helpful whenever I'm using other podcasts, of which I've already mentioned quite a few before. And other than that, yeah, welcome to my new studio. Last week, I've discussed this idea of setting up a studio for myself, and this is yet to be developed further. This is definitely just the beginning of the journey, but I thought, why not try and create with whatever is available to me right now? So, as I live with Kuba, and we have two actually separate rooms that are kind of used for anything. We dry our clothes here sometimes, and in the other room there is a spare bed that people use from time to time to just stay for a night or two. I thought I'll clean up this room a little bit and make a little corner for myself. So this is a work in progress. It will be changing over time, and there are still many things here in the background as well that might not necessarily stay there for long. For example, here on the bottom left, I'm still thinking what to place. Maybe I'll bring in some nature. That's an idea that popped into my head just now. And I'm hoping in the near future, maybe sometime after my birthday, I will have a little podcast logo at the back instead of this beautiful poster about the movie Scoring the Circle. I don't know if you've watched it. I'll probably talk about that movie in some time. But yeah, I've gathered some of the books that we have in our house at the back. I thought that's a nice addition and an amazing game of Cash Flow by Robert Kiyosaki. Definitely recommend the author. You've heard about him already, and the game itself is really cool. It's like a real life investor kind of game to teach you how to buy a house and so on. Chess, as per usual, a little dwarf that I've gotten for myself, and my girlfriend has a similar one. So that's also something that might stay, might not. And yeah, and this cool lava lamp that my friend Kuba has in his room. So I actually stole it today and decided I'll work with it. So welcome. I don't know if this is going to be a format that sticks. As I mentioned before, I'm experimenting this year. I'm very busy with uni, quite busy with applying for jobs. So we'll just see how it goes. Some episodes might be with video, some episodes might be without it. I don't know if I have a bad hair day or I just don't have the reason to be on video that day. But for now, I thought I'll show up my face, say hi, and give you some ideas. Because this topic today, which I wanted to talk about, um, I didn't know where to start because it's quite a touchy subject and also really important, I think. And some of the recent events around me, as well as some of the life events that are ahead of me soon, got me to think about it a bit more. And I've already made, I think, 2 episodes surrounding this topic. So I hope some of you already heard about it, but I find it's important to reflect on it again. And so I have some notes with me. I have some ideas that I want to share with you, and I'm hoping that On the other side of this episode, you'll be slightly more inspired to be grateful and aware of the time you have with your loved ones. So, first, maybe from my personal life, my younger brother is turning 18 in 5 days, I think, from now, which is crazy because he's 9 years younger than me, which meant that basically I remember him from the very beginning. And he was always a very big part and will be a big part of my life. And as I, moved away in 2016, when I went to study abroad, I've I think that was one of the biggest challenges for me over those years, and still is to an extent, because we've just grown so close, or at least in my mind. I hope that he thinks the same, but who knows what's inside his brain. I know that he was a very important person for me from the beginning, and I always felt like I sort of, missed out on some of the time with him because I had to, quote unquote, go study abroad. I didn't really have to, right? But that's what I did, and I am living abroad, and that's a fact. And it's not it. I don't see anytime soon us living together. Realistically, over time, it will be just less likely to live together because he will at some point move out as well, probably to study abroad, and so on. And this sort of, of course, it's completely normal, right? The idea that you have siblings and you grow up and you move away and you can stay close to one another, you can keep visiting, you can keep a very good contact, but all in all, each of you is living your own life, similar to my sister, who now lives with her boyfriend in Denmark. I feel I'm really close to her. At the same time, we don't really spend that many days together in a year. And as we've already had this discussion before on the episode about the time we have, and I will link below the video by Kurzgesagt, this amazing program on YouTube that makes you realize just how much time you have in life with your loved ones and so on. Um, it always makes me think about this sort of closeness to my family. And even though I've been away for a long time, I don't really think like I've grown apart. If anything, I think over the last few years, my relationship with them has gotten even better, which, is probably a side effect of growing up a little bit more and also a lot of work, about which I will talk in a moment. So this is sort of my perspective on this, which triggered my personal trigger to for this episode is just to maybe remind you, and I will have a little invitation for you, just to remind you of just how much you may undervalue sometimes the time you have with your family and what can be done maybe when you are with them, with your siblings, with your parents, grandparents, to make sure that the time you spend with them is the best possible time. So, secondly, something that really recently struck me, and I guess I need to get used to the fact that we are all growing older, and that's not going to be less frequent, rather more often. One of my close friends' father died recently, and that was quite a shock, and not necessarily because I've known the guy personally, rather because, it just happens so close to you, and it's an obvious thing, right? Everyone will die at some point. That's an obvious part. until we come up with that serum of immortality, although I doubt it's going to happen in my lifetime. And that made me think as well, about the different things, maybe um, different aspects of my life that I'm not really yet ready with for in case of a situation if my father would die. And it always, this topic always brings up this roughly quote. I'm going to quote it as I remember it from Jordan Peterson that invites us to become the kind of person that can be relied upon on the deathbed of our father. And this idea is basically surrounding the fact that it's a very powerful and a transition state. For sure, once you are the adult, let's say once your parents die, it doesn't have to necessarily be a father, it can be a mother, of course. Um, and Mr. Peterson, the way that I perceive it, just invites us to consider what kind of person should you become so you are ready for this and you can be relied upon to take care of stuff when that happens. And not to go into much detail, that also stuck out for me when I heard my friend's story that, instantaneously he's thrown with his siblings into this space where they need to take care of mm, their father's business, their father's, funeral and stuff, because first of all, their mom is really shaken up by it, and by herself, it's just unfair to allow someone to do it by themselves when that happens. And secondly, it's the call to action because now you are the sort of the father figure in the room. And that's a very, I think, honorable and lofty aim to aim for. That's what I would like to aim for myself. And I hope that with every day, with everything that I'm doing, I'm striving to become better so I can be ready. And as morbid as it may sound, that's how it's gonna be at some point, right? And those two things, those two events, my brother's 18th birthday, which is coming up, and my friend's father's upcoming funeral, basically, it triggered me to have this little episode for you about the time you spend with your loved ones. Um, my first inclination here, first point that I wrote down when I was thinking like what I would like to share with you is the thing that I think is really underappreciated, and I've not done that much enough up until I think 4 years ago. That's when the transition happened most. Um, at this point, there is barely a time in my calling my parents, my siblings, or even calling my very close friends that I don't say goodbye with telling them that I love them. Of course, this is only available if I do love them. I'm not telling you right now to be throwing that word around to random people, but I cannot stress enough just how powerful for me that was. And it might feel a bit, cringe at first if you're not used to it, or it might feel a bit cheesy. It's an obvious, right? Everyone says like, they know I love them, but especially looking at my friend and the situation that occurred, it dawned on me like, yeah, that's why every time you say goodbye, you should make sure you tell them you love them. And it's in a way, in my opinion, in a way, apart from cherishing the relationship and just saying something wonderful to a person that you truly love, it also has this value of kind of making sure that they know in case, in any case, touch wood, making sure that they know. and which might just be easier for you next time, when it happens and you're no longer able to tell them that you love them. And of course, they know. But for me, that was, I've heard it a few years back. I don't know which book it was in or which podcast, but it really struck me as something really powerful. And I even remembered this little advertising campaign from Poland, which I think was, we were trying to figure that out with my mom. I think it was something to do with cancer. My childish mind remembered it more to do with driving too fast and like traffic accidents, basically. But there was this quote to rush to love people because they depart so fast, and it really stuck with me. Like it really triggers in important parts in my heart when I hear that quote in my mind. And I wrote it down a couple of times. I've been going through it, in some parts in my life, and it really strikes me like something that is powerful. Just tell them you love them if you do. Make sure they know that you do. And it might be a bit cringe. They don't need to say the same. With some of my friends, I say I love you, and they smile, they don't say anything. Maybe they cringe a little bit, but that's okay. You know, it's that's just how it is. I feel much better saying it and just leaving it than not saying it and then regretting that I couldn't. Secondly, quite an obvious one that I wanted to touch upon is this idea of recognizing the value of spending the time with them and making sure that when you are with your loved ones, especially as you grow older, maybe you're already out of uni, maybe you're out of your house, maybe like some 25% of my listeners, you're already an adult with kids, or maybe you're retired, whatever. Um, your time with your loved ones is limited, and it suffices to say that we do spend a lot of time on our phones, for example, or staring at a screen that disables us from having a meaningful connection with a person. And I'm not saying, throw out all the television and television sets and all the phones and just sit and stare at one another or just talk at all times. But when you do talk, or when you do have that family dinner, or when you do something together, play a board game, whatever, if you're not together interacting with a screen, you might as well not interact with any screen, so you can have all the attention on that person. And this is especially powerful when you go out with your family for dinner, when you have your family over for dinner, or when you're just spending one-to-one time with your family or friends. And it's not easy in our time, Like I notice, and I don't think I'm any special person to notice this. I'm pretty sure if you were to do an experiment tomorrow and just be with your friends and notice how often do you reach for your phone, I've noticed this avalanche of a phenomenon that whenever someone picks up a phone, the second and the third and the fourth person will. And it's okay, we are very attached to our devices. I notice that I carry it everywhere. I've seen this little stand-up show about the fact that back in the day, when you were sitting on your toilet, you were just sitting on the toilet, or maybe you were reading a book, but now a phone is always there. So you barely realize that you're taking a shit. Sorry, my wording. But what I'm trying to say here is like when I'm with friends, for example, I notice that if one person reaches out for that phone, other people will, because we're addicted to it, right? Let's not beat around the bush. And And the moment that happens, if you're the only person that didn't reach out for the phone, you find yourself completely like isolated. I feel that way. And I'm not saying that I never reach for my phone. What I'm saying is like this is the feeling I get when everyone else is on their phone around the table, even though we are around the table together. And I just urge you, when you are with your friends or with your loved ones or with your family members, make the most of that time. And maybe for that family dinner or for that birthday party or for that, movie night even, put the phone away. If you have, like myself, a girlfriend somewhere else that you're sort of, on the phone with often, let them know that for the next hour, 2 hours, you're with friends, whatever, let's not message now. And similarly with work and with everything, ideally you want to have a separate time of being connected at all times because it's just unhealthy to be connected at all times. So use this invitation to make the most of your time with your loved ones as an invitation also to have a little bit of detox from your technology. And I just urge you to make the most of that time because I feel sometimes that I didn't, especially when I was younger, when I was coming back from uni in my first and second year of uni. I feel that I was running a lot on autopilot, and I've talked about it multiple times. And looking back at Wojtek from back then, I understand I had to go through that phase to be here. It's just that's how it was. But I do have regrets because of the time I didn't use valuable time I didn't use with my loved ones because of the need to check my phone or the need to go meet with my friends or the need to go and fucking, smoke a joint or whatever. I guess I'll make this episode explicit this time. Um, and yeah, I regret that time. I know that it's not gonna come back, and I've forgiven myself. And if anything, I'm sharing it with you right now because I hope that you won't make those mistakes. Um, but ultimately, looking back, I feel that there were times when I could have been more present, and definitely thanks to those times, maybe I am now because I have something that I know not to do. So that might be a good outcome of that situation, right? Nevertheless, make the most of your time with your loved ones and appreciate that time. Be aware just how much that time means to you, really. And then I just wanted to talk a moment about um, my brother's 18th birthday. So my little brother, Tomek, who's amazing, is turning 18 soon. And the funny story about this is back in 2018, I think, we've recorded together movie. It was a short movie recorded during vacation time in our seaside house, mostly in the woods. Mostly my brother was just crawling around and I was recording him. And it's the kind of like a post-apocalyptic story of a little boy. He was 9 years old, I think, at the time. Maybe 11, I'm not sure. You could probably count it, right? 12 or 11, I don't know. Uh, Maybe we've recorded 2017, now that I think of it. Well, whatever. He was young, right? He looks like a young boy, and he's just crawling through the woods, and so we recorded that, and we've encountered some troubles. I was studying film and TV at the time. I was really into it, and I still am. I think that was a really wonderful time together. And I even started editing it, but then my computer froze. I lost the editing material that I've done. And also, there was trouble with sound, and I basically abandoned it. You know, I just couldn't do it. And for many years, up until last week, I've been trying to finish it. So um that's just it's just so absurd, you know, like the time that this 15-minute movie has taken to be made, it probably extends over the movies that you see in the cinema, even the biggest productions. And I wouldn't say it's that big of a production. Anyway, I did demand of myself last year and this year finally to do it by the deadline. And it's both for my brother because I just want to show him a beautiful gift and then, spend that time looking at it again and remembering it again. But also it's for me because I do believe that if you start something and you believe it's valuable, you should finish it. And we've already talked about that. The episode was called Start to Finish. Um, and I urge you to do that, by the way. That's a side note. If you do something that is meaningful and you've not finished it and you said you would, do it because it will strengthen your self-discipline muscle and it will strengthen your confidence and it will be a proof of work that when you say something is going to happen, it does. And I truly believe that's a very powerful thing, and I truly believe also that we manifest our future that way by kind of claiming, as long as we're not, just throwing words around. If you claim you will do something and you have a genuine action to do it, finish it. So yeah, I just wanted to share with you this amazing thing. I finished it yesterday, actually. I've done some bloopers today and it's officially finished. I have 3 versions of it ready, because I've played with some color correction and basically I might even put it up on YouTube at some point and put it in the link for you to check out. If that happens, I'll make sure to update this episode with that link so we can look at our silliness. But it's very important for me that it happens, that I'm gonna finish it. And yeah, I guess my point here is that if something is worth doing, it's worth doing till the end, especially if it's connected to your loved ones. And yet again, I guess it's an echo of this idea that you should value, I don't know if should is the right word, value the time you have with them and value your loved ones and make sure they know you do. Um, Finally, I guess I just wanted to say that in a way, taking care of your relationship with family and your loved ones, you can treat it as goals. We've talked about multiple occasions on developing habits and setting up goals for yourself, but whenever I speak with people about goals, they first they say something surrounding their career, then they say something surrounding their finance, maybe some recreation or travel goals, creative sometimes, but I don't think maybe it's just not so obvious to consider your relationships in terms of goals, or your family relationships, or your friends' relationships, or community in terms of goals. And I think you should. That's at least what I do. And it really helped my relationships, both the intimate, romantic ones, as well as work relationships and with friends, with family. So there are some small tricks that you can do to make those relationship goals more attainable. For example, if my goal for this year, one of my goals for this year in terms of relationships, is to feel like I have quality connection with my family. Nevertheless, that we live apart, that I feel connected with them. And little habits that I have connected with that activity, with that goal, is, for example, giving my family members a call every other week, or whenever I think about them and I can. I just call them just to say hi. Sometimes the calls are for 5 minutes because they don't have much time. Sometimes the calls are for 2 hours. And of course, depending on which family member that is, those calls are easier to have longer than others. With my grandma, we can talk for hours because she doesn't have that much to do. Whereas with my sister, we usually spend around 30, 40 minutes talking, and then a week or two we don't talk. But I consider that a goal that I'm striving for. So I have listed certain activities that enable me to ensure that that happens. And one of those activities is calling. The second activity, as I mentioned earlier, is just recognizing and valuing the time I have with them when I'm with them to make sure that I make the most of that time. And the third one I don't remember, but it's somewhere between those lines. You get the gist basically, and it can be applied to your friends as well or your romantic partner, whether it's making sure that you call them every second day, or if it's your friends. I do have an idea in my head that i- in terms of the closest of my friends, the ones that I know date of birth, and I have a means of calling them, I try to call them first. I don't send a message first. I call them first, and if it happens that they don't answer, then I'll message them. But it's such a small thing, remember someone's date of birth. But if you do, I think it goes a long way. So I guess to close it off, I would like to invite you this week to do this, to call your family this week or visit them if you can, if you're blessed with living nearby, or if you can spare the time to visit them, take that time and visit them. Your family members will love it, I bet. And make the most of the time when you're with them. That's a challenge for you. And finally, do not forget to tell them you love them. That's like, if there's one thing to take away from this episode, it's that. Please, please, please do this, and you will see the smile on their face, even if it's a cringy smile at first. But they will get used to it, and then they will say it back, and then it's really lovely. So yeah, a little bit of a different episode. I'm starting this new season with just a bunch of ideas. We'll see where it takes us. Other than that, I wish you a wonderful week. Please do not forget to share, subscribe, and support, or send me an email just saying thanks, Voj. That's a nice time, nice episode you did. And let me know what you think about this setting. It's probably gonna change. I'm definitely missing something here. But yeah, other than that, have a wonderful week. Stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll see you next time.